to address.
Well, when you talk about
So
cost cutting and savings and everything else, I mean, honestly, look, there's nobody that feels worse about the Ukraine situation than I do because I know it would have never happened. I know Zelensky, he was very honorable to me because when they went with the Russia hoax and they said I had a phone call with him, he said it was a perfect phone call. It was a great phone call. He could have grandstanded and, said, oh, he was very threatening. He said, no, it was a very nice phone call. I called him up to congratulate him on his win, and you end up getting impeached because these people are
yeah, yeah,
lunatics. I was talking about the difference from the people within and the enemies on the outside. In many cases, the people from within are more dangerous for our country than the Russias and the Chinas. If you have a smart president, you're not going to have a problem with them. You're going to do things.
yeah,
Now, they've taken advantage
yeah,
of us
absolutely.
incredibly, but you're going to do things with the right person.
Yeah, well, I think it's obvious that you're a believer and an advocate of
Yeah.
free speech because during your first term as president, you were attacked relentlessly every day, often very unfairly with with false attacks, and you didn't try to shut down the media. You didn't try to inhibit their freedom of speech, and I think that says a lot.
Well, the good thing is that you and I have, and some people, very few, we can get the word out. Although sometimes it's hard because they don't want to print it. Like we're having a great conversation right now. Kamala wouldn't have this conversation. She can't because she's not
No.
smart. She's not a smart person, by the way. She can't have this conversation. And Biden, we don't even have to talk about it. I mean, he couldn't have this
He really does
conversation.
take a lot of
He
shots
would have
at
given
the
up on the first
presidents right
half
now.
of a question. He would have walked out. He would have said, "Where am I? Where am I going?" So anyway, but
Yeah,
no, he wouldn't have this.
that's true.
Not a lot of people would have this conversation, but we cover a lot of territory. But the beauty is that we can have a conversation, and
Yes, you
I'm
can actually
able
have a
to get it out
conversation.
without because I get treated unfairly
This
by
is
the
a really
press.
big point. You can actually have a conversation with you,
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
and you can't have a conversation with Biden or Kamala. It's like it's not possible.
That's
Um,
it's
this is like talking to an NPC.
now.
So it's just
Well,
impossible.
but think of it. We need a man or person who's unbelievably sharp in order to stop all the nuclear danger and all the dangers that I'm talking about. And I
Yeah.
got along with all these. I got along with Kim Jong Un. We had dinner, we had everything, and he really liked me, and I got along with him really well. By the way, he's the absolute boss over there. A lot of people said, "Oh, do you think he really?" Let,
That's for
let me
sure.
tell you, I saw things that you don't want to know about. He is the boss. But we had a good relationship, and he doesn't like Biden. He considers him a stupid man. He said he's a stupid man. Well, at least he speaks his mind. But in this country, you're not sort of allowed to say it. But I guess you are. You should be allowed to say it
Yeah,
if it's true. But we need smart people, and we need people that have an ability to lead. And she doesn't have that ability. Can you imagine? Now
yeah.
Chairman Xi very
Damn.
well. Can you imagine her and him negotiating, or
No, it's
even
silly. It would be
standing
silly.
together? It is the whole
Yeah.
concept is ridiculous. She is terrible. She's terrible. But she's getting a free ride. I saw a picture of her
Yeah, yeah,
on Time Magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing, and
yeah,
actually,
yeah.
she looked very much like our great first lady, Melania. She looked. She looked. Didn't look.
Yeah.
She didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman. So we'll leave it at that, right?
Yeah, well, maybe like I think part of what people in America want to, people in America want to feel excited and inspired about the future. They want to feel like the
It's
future
true.
is going to be better than the past, and that America is going to do things that are greater than we've done in the past, reach
Right.
new heights that make you proud to be an American, and excited about the future. Um,
They want the
I
American
think
dream
this,
back. They want the American dream back. More important than anything else. It's like you don't have that today because the people they've been just sucked. They see incompetent people running our. You know, the Biden thing is very interesting. People just found him to be incompetent, and when I debated him, I was like, "Is this for real?" It was
Yeah, it was just absurd. But I think there are like some grand projects that we could do. I mean, I think like we could build a base on the moon. We could send American astronauts to Mars.
A
right.
We could
base on the moon.
build high speed
Yep.
connections
That's
that are
wild.
more advanced than anything else in the
That's
world
pretty
between our
big
cities,
stuff
so
right
people can
there.
have fast transport. Um, that it's possible to solve traffic with tunnels.
That's right.
We already made great progress in Vegas doing that, and and just do things that are exciting and inspiring and make the future feel like it's better than the past.
Well, I saw what you
Like,
did in Vegas, and I'll tell you, it was amazing. I got to see. I took a big glimpse at it, and it's incredible. It's incredible, and you could do that all over. You could do that all over. It's deep.
yeah,
You
and
don't
that's
even need much structure. Assuming you're in the right areas.
no, it's straightforward.
It's amazing.
So I think we could do some things that like China's got incredible high speed rail between its cities, but I think it's actually possible with tunnels if with deregulation with an ability to actually
Excuse
where
me.
it's like legal to actually do the tunnels. Then you could have high speed tunnels that are actually better than anything else in the world for high speed transport between cities, and that would be something that Americans can say, "Wow, okay, we've got something that's cooler than anyone else in the
Yeah.
world." That's the kind of thing that makes you proud to be an
And
American.
much safer than surface trains, where there is a danger there. With people, with crazy
Yeah,
people, it's much safer, much better. And it's sad because I've seen some of the greatest trains. I find it fascinating, and I've seen the systems and how they work, and the bullet trains they call them, I guess, and they
yeah,
they go unbelievably fast, unbelievably comfortable, with no problems. And we don't have anything like that in this country, not even close. And it
yeah.
doesn't make sense that we don't. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think also like
That would make
there's
traveling so much easier for Americans
kind of
and
hopping on
probably
the excess regulation,
more
but I
affordable.
think something that um, like I think people can generally understand is that what happens with laws and regulations is that there's more and more of them every year, and unless there's a process to clean them up, eventually everything becomes
You're right.
illegal, and that actually it slows down the development of new technologies. I mean, if you take the sort of like I think there's room for some reform at the FDA for
Yeah.
improving the speed with which we approve drugs that could help save lives and improve people's
Yeah.
lives.
I worked very hard on that.
That,
We got that
yeah,
down to the lowest number ever, and we got therapeutics approved in the FDA that people can't even believe the speed. But I took them on. I don't think they like me too much, but I got things
Hmm.
approved in the FDA at at numbers that they wouldn't believe. And it's a very bureaucratic group. Actually, it's a fine group of people in many cases. I got to know a lot of them, but I was pushing them really hard for Regeneron, for so many different things that were really pretty
What do
amazing.
you guys
But
think?
the
This is a
FDA
test just
takes too long. It's
for
12
the
years to
stream.
get a
But what do
product
you guys
approved. I
think?
got it down to 4, and I
yeah.
got some things done very quickly. But it's really something that is going to have to be worked on because it takes too long. Just takes too long.
Yeah, it just takes too long, and you end up in the same with the approval, but it's just it takes years instead of something that I think could potentially take
Yeah,
months, and that improves people's lives. And I
yeah,
think but I just wanted to hop on this point that like there has to be an active process for reducing rules and regulations because otherwise they just keep building up every year
yep,
and you get like hardening of the arteries and eventually everything's illegal or takes forever and then we just we just ossify as a society. Uh, we can't make any
yeah.
progress, and that's it's a really big
Well,
deal.
Elon, just
So
getting back to the FDA for 1 second, I got something done called Right to Try. This is where you can go in and if you're terminally ill, you can use a space age, medicine or whatever it may be. We have the best doctors, the best labs in the world. We really do. And but people would go to other countries because you couldn't use the product, even if they thought it worked, because it's going through the FDA. I got it approved
yeah,
where you can
yeah,
you basically you look, nobody wanted, the doctors didn't want it because of the liability, the country didn't want it, our country, because they didn't want to get sued. These are people terminally ill. The insurance companies didn't want it, and the pharmaceutical companies, nobody wanted it. I got everybody into a room, and we came up with an agreement that you won't get sued. And also, they didn't want it on their record. If somebody's terminally ill and they die after taking a drug, they didn't want that on their record. So we set a separate list. If somebody was, so it wouldn't count as a negative.
yeah,
Okay. And as you know, we got it
yeah,
done. We have saved Right to Try. They've been trying to get this done for 58
yeah,
years. And it sounds simple, but it wasn't because of, I mean, the insurance companies, nobody wanted it. but we got it done.
Sure.
Somebody signs, you sign a document that you're not going to sue the insurance companies, the country, you're not going to sue anybody. And we got it done. And we're saving tens of thousands of lives. Right to try.
Wow.
Hopefully you never need it. But if you
Yeah.
do, you don't have to travel to Asia. You know, people,
Right.
if they had money, they go to
Yeah.
Asia, they go
Sure.
to Europe. If they don't have money, they go home and die. That's what happened. They'd go home and
Yeah.
die.
Well, I mean, and actually, to give Europe some props here, it's like if a drug is approved in in Europe, which has a crazy amount of regulations, it should obviously be approved in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, they get more regulations than we do. So what?
Wow.
Why would a drug be approved in Europe and not in the U.S.? That's crazy.
Well, we did it. We did
Um,
something that really, they've been trying to do it for 50 years and they just couldn't get it done. And I got it done. And it's really something. But you're right. Some people go to Europe because a drug isn't approved here, but it's approved in Europe. And it's a drug that, generally speaking, would
yeah,
work. It's pretty crazy. You're
absolutely.
right.
And I think so, as long as people are properly informed of the pros and cons and like these are the risks, these are this is the risk, and like you make your own decision.
Yeah.
Um, that makes sense.
Well, I think just,
So
in sort of closing up, and by the way, I'm looking at the numbers. You got a lot of people listening. I
Mhm.
hope you don't get
yeah,
nervous because you got a lot of people listening to you right now, like 60
That's
million or something. What is that number? It's crazy. It's amazing how
that's
you can
1.1
see
million,
that right
man.
away. How many? What is the number? Wow. What is it?
well,
Wow.
I think in
Wow.
terms of people that that,
That's bigger than you said. You said 25, and you're much more than double that number, 25 million. I think you're going to be 60 or 70, and I guess over a period of time. Hey, I congratulate you. Do I get paid for this or not?
well, I think actually in terms of the number of people that will hear this conversation over the next few days to
Right.
weeks, it's going to be hundreds of
That's what they
millions.
say. Yeah, that's good. Well, look, it's an
Yeah.
honor. I just asked this: are you better off now, or were you better off when I was president? Nobody's better off now. People, we put out polls on that, and nobody's better off now. Inflation has
Wow.
killed it. And they also feel very unsafe. You look at what's going on with a lot of different things. You look at the riots we had at the
Yeah.
colleges over, I mean, it's ridiculous, but
Right.
all of the riots, they just feel unsafe. And now they really feel unsafe because you have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. I call it Biden
Well,
migrant
yeah.
crime. Maybe I'll call it
Well,
Kamala migrant crime. But
I mean, with all these things, I always try to get to the ground truth by just asking people. And my mom lives in New York, and I was like, Mom, do you know, have you any of your friends, been attacked or assaulted? And she said, yeah, three of her friends in three
it's
separate
crazy.
incidents were assaulted just in recent months, just walking around the streets of New York. And
That's wild.
I said, well,
You don't wish that on
what
anybody.
happened to the people that assaulted them? Oh, nothing. They got away. Like, and they just
They
know that
always get away.
nothing's going. And they don't even they don't even bother reporting it because there's not they know that they're not going to people are not going to get prosecuted. They just let violent criminals out in New York
The only
with
one that gets
zero
Wow.
verdict.
prosecuted is Donald Trump. They don't get, they prosecute Trump.
Yeah, I mean it's just obviously messed up
Oh, it's terrible.
if violent criminals are being getting off scot
Yep.
free, and meanwhile the New York spending massive resources prosecuting you, and it's like what's this and I think the sort of sensible public looks at this and says what the heck's going on here? This is obviously abuse of the legal system. Um,
Wow.
the legal system is supposed to be protecting the
That's
public
right.
from violent criminals, and it should be obviously allowing the public to make their own decision about who should be president as opposed to some legal case.
Once they start this precedent, because this can go on with the next one, I mean, this is a very bad precedent what they're doing in terms of, going after their political opponent. And that's all it is. It's going after their political opponent. And
Yeah,
and then you get a judge who's, a strong Democrat, and I'm being nice when I say that, in many cases crooked as hell. But you get a
Oof.
judge and you go into an area where a Republican gets 3 or 4% of the vote, and you'll have a jury pool
yeah,
with people that hate Republicans or hate. It could
sure,
also be the other way though,
of course,
because it could start the other way in areas where they hate
exactly.
Democrats, and you get into a
Yep.
Pandora's box. It's a very dangerous thing for this country, and a very dangerous thing even for the state. New York City is
Yep,
losing. New York
absolutely.
City and state lose a lot of business over what they did to me because these people say we don't want that to happen to us. That's no justice system. You have an unfair system of
Yes.
justice, and it's costing New York State a tremendous amount of money. People are leaving and companies are leaving, and they won't come back. So all of that stuff is important, but the economy now is the big thing, and we can turn that economy up so fast, and people are going to be back again. We're going to get rid of
Yeah, I think there's
inflation.
a lot of
Right.
opportunity. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So
We got to
And I
see. We
just
got to
want to
find
I
I
want
out.
to
think
congratulate you. You've done an amazing job. You have definitely got a fertile mind. We can talk. You and I can talk about
well,
rockets
see,
and
it's kind of you to say thank you.
well tunnels. We can talk about tunnels and rockets and electric cars. So many things. And now you're into the AI, and that's going to be another beauty, I'll say. So
Yeah.
it's an amazing thing you've done, Elon. It's an amazing thing, and I
Well,
congratulate you.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, thank you. And well, I mean, I just say here, here's to an exciting, inspiring future that people can look forward to and be optimistic and excited about what happens next. And that's the kind of future that I think you will
That's
bring
the
as
big
president,
question
and
right
that's
there.
why I
Is just
endorse
what
you.
happens
Well, I
next.
appreciate that. That endorsement meant a lot to me. Not all endorsements mean that much, to be
Well,
honest. Your endorsement meant a lot. And, we have a phrase, make America great again. It's pretty simple, but it really says that we want to make America great again. And we can do it. We can do it now. But if we were going to suffer another 4 years like we've suffered for the last 4 years, I'm not sure the country can ever come back. That's how bad it is. It's so bad.
well,
We have to do a
I
lot of
think that's
things.
a very real
Yeah,
risk.
it's a big
That's a
risk.
very real risk.
Yeah,
And it's I'd just like to note to people listening, like I've not been very political before, and if you look at my record, I've actually been I'm not like some they try to paint me as like a far right guy, which is absurd because I'm like making electric vehicles and solar and batteries helping with the environment, and and I actually I I supported Obama. I stood in line for 6 hours to shake Obama's hand when he was running for president, and so it's not like I'm like some sort of dyed in the wool long term Republican. I'd call myself uh, historically a moderate Democrat, and but now I feel like we're really at a critical juncture for the country,
well,
and uh, I think a lot of people thought the Biden administration would be a moderate administration, but it's not, and obviously we're just going to see an even further left uh, administration with Kamala. That's my honest opinion. I mean, her dad is literally. I mean, she was brought up as an actual. Her dad is a Marxist economist. You can Google it. I mean, it's not a. We're not making this up. Um, that's how she was brought up. So, uh, and we want to have a future that is prosperous. And I think we're just at this critical juncture, and I think this is a case of the America is going to at a fork in the road,
it's true.
well,
and I think it will take if the path to, like you are the path to prosperity, and I think Kamala is the opposite. Then that's my honest opinion. I'm gonna get attacked like crazy, and I've also experienced quite a bit of lawfare myself, and but I'm just trying to tell people my honest opinion, and I haven't been really active in politics before, and I'm just trying to point out that my track record historically has been moderate, if not moderate, slightly left, and so this is to people out there who are in the moderate camp to say I think you should support um, Donald Trump for president. And I think it's actually a very important junction in the road, and we're in
he
deep
said it.
trouble
Mm.
if it goes the other way.
We're
Well,
in
I want
deep
to thank
trouble
you. And,
if it goes the other
I
way.
actually always did think of you as
Those are
somewhat
tough words,
left. I
man.
must say that.
Coming from
So
someone that's super smart.
it's
Yeah.
even more of an
Well,
honor to
yeah.
have
Who
your
knows?
endorsement. I know how strong you feel about it. But, when you think of her, San Francisco, 15 years ago, I had a great friend, Bob Tish. He said it's the greatest city in America. And now it's almost not livable there. And California likewise. And she was involved in the destruction of San Francisco and the destruction of California. And
Hmm,
she will be involved in the destruction of our country if people are so unwise as
that's
to
crazy.
elect her. And I hope that doesn't happen. And I hope the elections are going to be run honestly. And we're going to turn this country around. We're going to do things and we can do it fairly quickly. And we have to get rid of the criminals that have been, given to us by other countries as they laugh. They laugh at
Yeah.
us. They think we're stupid. to accept these people. These are
That's
radical,
crazy.
stone cold killers in many cases, and terrorists. And they're in our country by the hundreds of thousands,
Yeah,
and we have to take
yeah,
them out.
yeah. I mean, if I could summarize it, perhaps, I think these are issues that I think most people in America would agree with, which is that we want safe and clean cities, we want secure borders, we want sensible government spending, we want to restore both the perception and reality of respect in the judicial system. Just stop the lawfare, and I think like, and how are those even right wing positions? I think those are that's just common sense, and that's
Wow.
I mean, would you agree with that?
100%. I don't understand, the whole, they call it progressive. They don't like the word liberal anymore, but call it liberal or progressive. I don't understand how somebody could say that it's okay for them to empty prisons into our country. And
Yeah,
again, I
that's not
told you
okay,
their crime
obviously.
rates
Definitely
all
not
over the world
okay.
are going way down, which makes sense. In fact, the next time what we'll do is, if something happens with this election, which would be a horror show, we'll meet the next time in Venezuela, because it'll be a far safer place to meet than our country. Okay, so we'll go. You and I will go, and we'll have a meeting and dinner in Venezuela,
He
because
said
that's
that to
what's
Aiden
happening.
Ross.
Their crime rates coming down, and our crime rates going through the roof. And it's so simple. And you haven't seen anything yet, because these people have come into our country and they're just getting acclimated, and they don't know about being
Damn.
politically correct law enforcement or lack of law enforcement. And our police, I have to just end with this. We have great police, we have great law enforcement, but they're not allowed to do their job. They have to be able to do their
Yeah.
job without being destroyed.
Well, absolutely, and it's obviously demoralizing if you're a police officer risking your life to to arrest violent criminals who could kill you and do kill you sometimes, and then you arrest the violent criminal, and then the DA doesn't prosecute, and they just let the guy out.
Right.
Well, then, like, why should a police officer risk their life uh, to arrest a violent felon
Well, even worse,
if
Elon,
nothing's going to happen?
even worse, they prosecute the police officer. They go after it, and they prosecute the police officer, and they take away his pension, they take away his
Yeah.
job, he loses his family, he loses his house.
Well, I thought it was very telling, like incredibly telling, that when there was that case where uh, sort of a gang of thugs beat up police officers. I think it was in Times
Yep.
Square in New York, and and then nothing happened to those guys. They were let out, zero bail,
Hi, baby.
and I think a bunch of them were given free tickets to California.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
what
but
is
it's fine.
I mean, that is
Nobody in
that is a gross indignity against the United
there.
States, and that's how, I mean, this is insane. Like, have we lost all pride? What that how can such a thing be allowed to occur?
I've never seen anything.
You know?
We see where they get shot. It's a very dangerous profession, but it's something they're very proud of, and they want to be able to do their job. But I've seen them get shot. I've seen a lot of things. But I've never seen where these guys are standing in the middle of a big street, everybody watching them, and they're literally boxing, like punching, stand up fighting a police officer. There were two of them, and
Yeah,
yet about six
yeah,
of
yeah.
these guys, and they're punching the hell out of them. And in their own country, they would be dead if they did that. They'd be shot.
Yes.
They would be shot instantly. And they come from these countries, and it's taking them a while to realize that we don't do that in this country. But in their own
Yeah,
country, if they stood on a street and had a fight with a police officer, they would be shot. There's no political correctness, and
yeah. It's just
it's such a sad thing to see. And that's the reason you have crime,
we
by the way,
yeah,
because we don't do anything about
yeah.
it.
Yeah, we just cannot have a situation where our police officers are beaten up on camera by a gang of illegal immigrants, and then nothing happens to the guys that beat up the cops. I mean, and they're let out. This is
Well, we're going
unacceptable.
to change it,
Um,
and we're going to get them out of the country. When I first got involved, they said you couldn't get them back to these countries. You couldn't take them back. In the case of Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, some others, you couldn't get them back. And I said, really? Oh, you can't get them back? Because under Obama, he couldn't get them back. They'd fly them in, and they'd put planes on the runways in these countries so you couldn't land the plane. They'd bring them back. And the generals told me, sir, we can't bring them back. The countries won't accept MS-13 gang members. They won't accept them. And I said, really, how much do we pay these various countries in terms of economic aid, which is also somewhat ridiculous? And the answer was $750 million. I said, good. Tell them they're in default. They're delinquent. We're not paying them anymore because they won't accept
Yeah,
it.
it's
And you know what happened? They all called me,
yeah,
every one
yeah,
of them. They said, we would be honored to take them back, sir. We would be honored. It was so easy. But it's one of those things. And we got it back. We took in so many, the MS-13 is probably
yeah,
the worst gangs in the world. They're the most vicious, violent. We took them out of here by the thousands and got them out of here, and their countries took them back. And because I said, you're not getting any more economic aid. And once I said that, they were nice. They wouldn't take them back for
yeah,
Obama. They
yeah.
wouldn't take them back for anybody. And now we have a problem because we have this guy, and they don't take him back anymore with Biden because they don't respect him.
Yeah, yeah. It's just gotta be done. We just can't have whether they're citizens or not citizens. We can't have because they won't prosecute citizens either. Not just illegals. So that if it's you can't have violent repeat violent offenders that are not that don't get
That's
incarcerated
right.
because they will obviously by definition continue to hurt people. And I think where part of this comes from is that there's and I do sort of consider myself liberal in some ways. I mean, it's just that you want to have empathy for
Right.
people. Obviously, you want to have empathy for people. I totally agree with that. You want to have empathy, but you also have to have empathy for the victims of the criminals. And if you just have empathy for the criminals, it's actually shallow empathy. It's not real. You're not thinking. You have one layer deep empathy. You got to say like, what if you don't incarcerate this person? Who are they going to? Uh, Hurt, who are they might kill someone, they might rape someone. If you don't incarcerate them, you have to have empathy for the victims. And there's a lack of empathy for the victims of the criminals and too much empathy for the criminals. It doesn't make sense. That's why you want to have deep empathy for society as a whole, not shallow empathy for
That's right.
criminals.
And we have to give our police officers the dignity and the respect that they deserve. And we have to let them do their job. They can do a great job, but we have to let them do their job. And if we don't do that, it's going to all disappear. There's never been a society like this where you're allowed to do anything you want and nothing happens. And I'm talking about violent crime. And it's going to get more violent because these are really, really violent people, and we're going to get them out of our country, and we're going to get them back to where, because they were sent here by the presidents and by the various people that run those countries, and I know every one of those guys, and they're smart people, and they're streetwise people, and they really think that the USA is stupid. They think we're run by stupid people, and they happen to be right. But when I was there, we had no problem. We got them out. We took out thousands of MS-13 gang members. We brought them back.
Mm.
And now, again, it's the same old story. We don't do it. And they actually gave them a big increase in aid. They raised it up to billions of dollars, and they get nothing for it. So it's. I hope everybody's going to vote for Trump, and we're going to get this country straight. And
Yeah.
I didn't need this.
I
I'm like you. I didn't need this. I had a very nice
yeah,
life. I didn't need to go
yeah,
through
yeah.
court systems and go through all the other stuff and run at the
Sure.
same time. I have to run. I have to go through fake trials with, in some cases, corrupt judges, totally corrupt judges. I didn't need it. I had a nice life. I have great locations. I have beautiful oceans that I have places.
He's
This
flexing.
was, but I felt it was important. And if I had to do it over again, you probably think I'm crazy for doing it, actually. But if I had to do it over again, I would have done it over again because this is so much more important than me or my life. We're going to save this country. This country is going down. And these people are bad people that we're running against, and they're liars. They make statements. They do things that are so bad. They say they're going to make a strong border. They say they've been great on the border, and they've been the worst in history. They say they're
Yeah,
going to
it's
stop
horrible. Like
crime,
the
and
facts speak for themselves. The
it's so
facts
incredible.
speak for themselves. Like it's gotten to the point where people just don't even bother reporting crime in a lot of
That's
cities
right.
because they know nothing is going to happen. Um, that's what I hear anecdotally from people all the time. Um, so it's just my values. I'm just saying to people out there like the things I think are important for the future is like we've got to have safe cities, we've got to have secure borders, we've got to have sensible spending, and we've got to have deregulation. And
Right.
so we can have a prosperous future. And then we want to have some exciting, sort of moonshot projects that people can get fired up about. And that's the future I'm looking for. And I'm pro environment, but I'm not against. I'm not like I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry because they're keeping civilization going right now, and but I do think we want to move at a reasonable speed towards a sustainable energy economy. Those are my values, and I think um, and so I mean that's uh, why I'm supporting you for president.
Well, I
So
appreciate it. We're going to give incentive to companies to come into our country, not to leave our country. We're going to be giving tremendous incentives. We want companies to build here, not to build in other locations. And we want to create jobs. And again, it's about the American dream. You don't hear about the American dream anymore, Elon. You don't hear. You're the American dream in the truest sense, but you don't hear about the American dream anymore. And you're going to hear about it. People, they need that incentive to go out
yeah,
and do it. And they're going to love their lives. I mean, they're going to look forward to getting up in the morning and going to a job that they love, not a job that they can't stand, or not any job at all, where they have no money, where they
yeah,
literally have no money, and then they end up with violence and lots of other problems. No, we're
yeah.
going to do
Eh,
some great things. And I learned a lot in the first. We had a great economy and all of that. We rebuilt the military. We did so much, but I also learned the best people. I learned the good people, the smart people, the dumb people, the people that can do things. The people, you learn. When I first came in, I tell people I was in Washington D.C. only 17 times, according to the fake news media. I was in 17 times. I never stayed over. And you don't know people. You rely on other people to give you names, and then you realize the people you relied on weren't so good. Now we had great people, but we also had some where I wouldn't have, used them had I known. Now I
yeah.
know everybody, and I think we're going to really turn things around fast. We have no choice, otherwise we're not going to have a country. And I really appreciate this. Has been to me, it's been a lot of fun being with you. You're an amazing guy. You've done an incredible job and a great inspiration to people. A great inspiration, and I hope you keep going and just continue to do well. And we're going to have a big election coming up, and I think November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country. I think that election will be the most important
Well,
election, and I think it'll end up being maybe the most important day in the history of our country, because if
Yeah.
we don't win, I just feel so sorry for everybody.
No, I think we're at a fork in the road of
could
destiny
you imagine
of
saying that?
civilization, and and I think we need to take the right path, and I think you're the right path. So I think
Well,
that's what it comes down to.
thank you very much, Elon. It's a great honor, and we'll do it again sometime. And it's been really fun, and I hope you got a lot of viewers. I hear you got a lot, but I hope you
Sure.
got
Yeah.
I know you got a lot
Elon
of them.
Musk just became the
So
biggest
I
streamer.
appreciate it. I'll see you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Elon. Thank you very much. Bye.
And that's pretty cool. I mean, I don't want to throw politics into it, even though that's such a big political event. But it's great to see Elon Musk, I guess, pushing out his ideas. Because it kind of is pushing, right? He has one of the biggest platforms in social media, and he's pushing his ideologies. I mean, it is what it is. He's showing what he wants. He's supporting who he wants to, and nobody should be judged for that, right? Whoever you want to, you know, support is whoever you support. Um, it's good to see, those things. It's pretty crazy, man. They talked a lot about basically immigration is going to be one of the biggest issues, and possible World War III. That's the biggest things that they mentioned in my eyes. Excuse me, I came in a little bit late, so I don't know, but man, the the tough thing. Yo, what's up? No, I'm not working now. All right, I think I might stream. That was pretty big deal right there. Before I come back later, I want to see if Fortnite locks up or comes up. That'd be really nice. Maybe we could play some games. That's the update. Appreciate y'all, man. Thank you for tuning in. Peace and love.